Global.
Hello and welcome to Talk Africa with me, Jones Ewa, and today in the studio we have candykisseih, who's a social commentator, also a radio host here at GN Radio. Thank you for joining us today, Candy. How are you doing?
I'm very well. The weather looks like it's going to be good. So hopefully.
Yeah. Well, it should get a bit warmer, I think, from tomorrow. Yeah. Am I wrong?
I want it to be warm today.
All right. Now, coming up later on the program, our main topic of the day. Funerals in some African society are not only an occasion to mourn, but also an occasion to celebrate the death of a loved one. But when it comes to funerals, some communities tend to go all the way. Now, the average cost of a funeral is between £3,000 to £5,000. At the higher end, it could cost between £15,000 to £20,000. Why do we spend so much money on funerals? Okay, so the question we're asking today: why do African society spend a lot of money on funerals? Is it a status symbol? Okay, I know not all African communities, but some. That's what we're asking today. That's what we're talking about later on the program. I would like to hear your personal experience on this subject. So do call in when we start talking about it. The number is 0203-735-8820 or 0203-286-0185. As always, we look at stories trending across the continent. But let's start with the news headlines here in England. Okay. All right. We're trying to get the news headlines up. We have a few. Okay, I think we've got it up now. Okay, so let's start with the Metro. Okay, let's start with the Metro. The Metro has on the front page, Commons Speaker John Bercow faces growing pressure to quit amid accusation of bullying. Metro says David Leakey, the former Black Road, said Mr. Bercow was unworthy of the role. The Times on the front page saying that, but Mr. John Bercow has vowed to stay in his job and claims he has support to stay on as Speaker. The Daily Express, let's look at Daily Express. The family of a pensioner, a war hero who had his life savings stolen by a carer, have backed the Daily Express. Respect for the Early campaign, the paper reports. Let's look at the Independent. A helpline set up for women who were not sent breast cancer screening invitation because of an NHS computer glitch has had more than 8,000 calls, the Independent reports. About 450,000 women are said to have been affected by the error. We spoke about this yesterday. I'm sure we'll touch upon it again today. The Daily Mail. Health officials were warned of the breast cancer screening scandal a year ago, but failed to act, the Daily Mail reports. And the Financial Times on the front page, they have the leader of the opposition party, Jeremy Corbyn, walking. But they're saying that BT will reveal plans next week to cut a further 6,500 staff, the Financial Times is reporting. The telecommunication firm has already said it will shed about 4,000 of its 106,000 strong workforce to save money. And the Daily Mirror. Job seekers are being offered work as naked cleaners via government website, the Daily Mirror. Let's look at the Daily Star. The father of Henry Vincent, who was fatally stabbed while burgling a pensioner's home, made a rude gesture towards the press at his son's funeral, the Daily Star reports. And the Daily Telegraph, again, a picture of Jeremy Corbyn. saying that Britain may have to stay in the customs union until 2023, 3 years after the Brexit deadline passes, due to the lack of new highly complex border technology, the Daily Telegraph is reporting. So the Brexit issue is still is still making the news headlines. I don't think we'll see the end of the Brexit issue yet. And The Sun leads with a picture of 6 police officers posing with former England and Arsenal striker Ian Wright after his stolen car was found while the force was too busy to investigate a burglary nearby. The victim of the burglary told the paper seeing the picture was too hard to take. Wow, so somebody's house gets burgled and the police are busy taking pictures with former England and Arsenal player Ian Wright. That's interesting. The Guardian. Donald Trump's economic protectionism could be repeating the U.S. mistakes in the 1930s in the wake of the Great Depression, economists have warned in The Guardian. Okay, so that's the newspaper headlines here in England. Idris has joined us. Idris, good morning to you.
Good morning, everyone there.
Good morning.
Maybe Ian Wright has won the right.
Well, before we get into the stories, Arsenal yesterday against Atletico Madrid. Not the sending off that everybody wanted.
No, that's what he deserves. There's no one is. I don't think there's anyone who didn't foresee that happening. Arsenal have about 2 or 3 nightmare strikers that when you play against them, you know our porous borders allow them to score. But the best thing I said yesterday night to people is that, look, Wenger is going. There'll be a new direction.
Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be a new direction.
Did you have a chance to look at it? As Wenger is leaving, a lot of people wanted Wenger to win the Europa League.
How do you go to war with that ammunition?
Unfortunately, it didn't happen for Wenger.
It could not have happened for him anyway.
What do you make of the whole Wenger
I'm sorry
case?
he's leaving. He's done a good job. He's been there for so many years, and he's done. And whilst all the other football clubs, whenever they lose a game, they want to kill the manager. No, Arsenal fans have stayed steadfast too. But now,
maybe you don't understand the jokes in the social media.
No, I don't.
Let me give you the joke now. They said, look, if you want to give somebody your daughter, please give it to an Arsenal supporter because they are very patient.
Okay. Right.
So what is your team then? What team do you
nice, mate. Don't you see my cufflinks? We're celebrating the departure of the great manager.
Oh wow! I didn't see your cufflinks. I can't get close enough to see your.
Yeah.
We have to build you.
It's Arsenal.
We have to build you.
No, in the spirit of
later.
Can I just say that the best football team in the whole wide world is Manchester United? Yes.
Right on.
No, it's a Ghana. We will build you too.
If Arsenal Man United are watching, make sure you look out for a bill be coming through from Talk Africa. Now let's move on. Let's look at the local elections that took place yesterday. As we're still on air, they're still counting. But you've come out. You've come out. I know that you supported Labour. Yeah. You're part of the Momentum group. How do you think Labour?
That's interesting. Somebody should not be hearing that.
My take on the Momentum issue is that it's unfortunate because Momentum, it was gathering momentum, and they were a lot of young people, a lot of smart young things were very into the whole Labour ethos, and it hasn't really come out that way. Labour has maintained all their seats, and Labour is doing well. It's added a few more, Portsmouth, etc., etc. However, I'm not sure. This is not the way that I envisaged it, with all of the excitement. So, but we haven't finished counting, and as the Arsenal supporter has taught me that we should be patient. So I'm.
Maybe you've been
patient.
reading too much of the media. That's why you.
I don't
think,
read
That's
too
why you
much
think
of-
momentum is not gathering momentum. Look,
But
where you have
momentum
where you have
is-
momentum, you don't expect it to be smooth like that. That's the mistake people make. You have to expect that at one point in time, amongst the crowd too, there will be dissidents there. So unfortunately, because it's Jeremy Corbyn, the media had highlighted more of those dissidents than those who are doing the right thing. So that's my take on it. That's where I see it, and I think that's the way it is.
Yeah.
They've come from nowhere.
Yes.
Who?
Momentum have come from
Oh, yeah.
nowhere
Yeah.
to build Labour to this level.
Are you?
When they thought, let's leave that for now. When they thought Corbyn was going
Oh,
to
my
die,
God.
everybody was waiting for his funeral. All of a sudden, he's the kingmaker now. Nobody has done that except the Momentum Group. So whatever you find there, whatever the media try to highlight about Momentum, yes, we have those such pocket of crisis within it, which is not unexpected of a gathering. These people are from different backgrounds. They respond to issues differently. So you expect that. I don't think there's anything roughly about that, except that it's not too good for conservatives, because at this particular time, the crisis that's leading to this election will certainly they will certainly feel it in this election, certainly.
Especially areas such as Wandsworth.
Yes.
Wandsworth is an area that Labour were confident that they would have taken, but unfortunately it didn't happen. Conservatives still held on.
Yeah, it's about don't forget about election is about focus. You make a focus, you do your work. Or occasionally to see the incumbent is always very difficult. So when an incumbent loses an election, you know that some of the policies are not good. It's not easy to unseat an incumbent. But let's see what happens by the time they finish the final counting. We know what gains Labours have made and what they didn't make.
I used to live on the cusp of Labour and Wandsworth. This is years ago when I was a fine young thing.
You are still very fine.
But not so young. Anyway, so this is around the time when the Conservative Tory were controlling Wandsworth, and you paid less council tax, and yet you got a lot of. They took their rubbish, and when the whole rubbish thing was going on about once every 2 weeks and all of that had started, the argument had started. Wandsworth was being looked after well. I wished I was actually inside of the Wandsworth borough. Now, if you have people, what people don't realize is voters look for certain things.
Okay.
And
Right. And I'm looking for a moment where
I just wish my councillor is a Ghanaian. I wish she wins.
When we come back, we'll talk more. This is Talk Africa. We'll be back after
Ghanaian.
this.
My councillor is a Ghanaian.
Commercials.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global. This program is brought to you by Pay Global.
Welcome back to Talk Africa. Now, before we went on the break, we were just talking about the local elections that took place yesterday. Counting is still ongoing, but as it stands, in all, Labour has done well in all, but strong areas where Labour thought they could overtake Conservatives. It didn't happen. Now, before we went on the break, Kiki, you were
I was saying that sometimes voters are interested in the benefits they get from the council, you see, and some councils, some boroughs, there was a time when you didn't even have to pay council tax in Wandsworth, but yet they were looking after your bins, your this, your that, and everything. Those are the things that I want. I want my bins to be collected. I want, services, the front of my, weeded. Just general. I want to live in a nice area, and these kind of things are provided by the council because we pay our council tax. Now, if I feel that the area I live in is rotty and it's the Labour or the Tory people are not looking after us, I will vote for Labour because I expect it. But then that doesn't mean Labour should slack, you see. So these are issues that have to be looked at very seriously. And I think when people's basic needs are met, the person who meets those basic needs are the ones that you want to stay with. So this is an issue that we have to look at and provide.
Okay, I was very fascinated by the voting environment because I took my boy along.
So is he back?
He's back here. I took him along and he actually was one who, after Tom Prince, after doing he was one who pulled it there.
Tom Prince?
After
there's no Tom Prince here. I don't know where he went
I didn't land before you took it off.
I heard that too.
After putting the eggs, he was one who took it and put it inside the thing. I was just fascinated by that environment. Since I came here, I've been very impressed by the conduct of the elections there, because as a journalist in Africa, I've covered several. And I was telling him yesterday that, look, this is not how you vote in Nigeria? No, that's not how you vote. You find armed policemen. I was telling him yesterday, armed policemen, and he was trying to tell me, is that right? I said, no, because they are very proactive. I was trying to spin it to him that they are very, but the conduct is very beautiful. If you voted in our environment, if you stay very well in Africa and you've covered elections, you understand what I'm saying.
I have voted in my country.
Yeah.
But it's the same as here. You just walk to the place and vote and walk away.
Nigeria is not like that, unfortunately, I must tell you. Because every time I go to vote here, I just wish we could get, because I went with my family and my wife and my son. Because she was also a journalist, and we've covered the election several times, and it's just not that way. You find armed policemen because there's always this expectation that somebody is coming to snatch the ballot boxes. Yeah. Yes, it's as bad as that.
It does happen.
Of course, yes. It's not that we are not denigrating that country. No, that's the way it is. You always, that was what I was telling my son yesterday, that the police armed guard are there because they are proactive. Because somebody somewhere is coming to steal the ballot, and you keep wondering, what are they doing it for? Because the perks in the office is just too attractive. People taking millions of loans, bank loans, selling houses, because they want to get into elected office. And if you do that, it's very obvious exactly what your mission is. I mean, it was such a big hall, only a couple of people there, mostly women, and one man there. They are not expecting anything to happen.
There was no atmosphere.
There was
nothing.
They couldn't even dream of it. What will anybody come and do there? And you just stroll in. The highest I spent there was just 3 minutes, because I was talking to my son. And they didn't even ask for your voter's card. They only ask for your name and where you live. And once your name is there, do your civic duties and off you go.
Okay. Now, with 150 local councils still up for grabs, with more than half of the results in so far, Labour have held onto 46 Council and took control of Plymouth from the Conservatives. As a result, Tory MP Johnny Mercer blamed the government's handling on defence issues. But Labour
it will always be a blame game at this stage.
But Labour lost control of Nonny in Bedworth and Warwickshire after the Conservative took 8 of their seats, and Derby, also Conservative lost this seat in previous local elections to UKIP.
So
what's happening this year is that Conservatives have taken a lot of seats from UKIP
back. It was an alliance between the two of them before, so I don't see anything. I don't see a take back.
I just think UKIP is Tory and Tories.
Of course, that's the way they are. That's the way I see them too.
Okay, I think we need to get a Conservative.
I'm just a journalist.
All right, let's move on. And Kiki, there's a story with the first Windrush lady has returned to the UK.
Yes, I saw that, and I couldn't find it.
They were very much willing to celebrate that.
yes.
They will celebrate it.
She was so happy to be back. She never thought that she'd get back. Yeah. I've lost it. I've lost the.
Okay.
You must find it.
I will find it.
I think you've gone too far, Kiki.
Yeah, I can't find it.
Whilst Kiki is looking at that, let's talk about the fact that the Windrush scandal, the way in which it's been handled. I mean, it was in the newspapers for what, a good couple of weeks. Okay, you found the story now, Kiki.
Yeah, I found the story. You know, great-grand Gretel Gokan has an emotional reunion with her family yesterday. You know, the name Gretel, I'll tell you something about it. It's all connected to this anyway. One of the first stories I read myself as a child at the age of 3 or 4, is Hansel and Gretel. Now, Gretel and her brother Hansel got lost in a field, and they were attacked by witches and whatever. And they managed to find their way home. The end of the story. You know, there were a lot of escapades and things. So here we are. It's a Hans Christian Andersen book. And here we are, great-grand Gretel also finds her way back home. It is so emotional.
That's very interesting.
The first person, the first Windrush exile.
I said that she wasn't. This one didn't get lost.
It was
bad.
Was she pushed? Was she pushed? You know. So there you are, and it's beautiful because she's 81.
Yeah.
And so I think at 81, this woman being turfed out of her home, her environment, what she's known, that is really sad. So she's back to her home, and she's very happy. And she's got a new passport as well.
Was she able to recognize the house?
Will she get compensated?
That compensations have not been mentioned as yet. But, I mean, somebody is saying, her grandson, Aaron Burnham, is saying that she needs support from the government, that they owe her, at the very least. What they put her through was disgusting. It's true. We all think that. I was hoping that Labour would win more because of the Windrush scandal. But you know, I don't know where we're going.
Just coming back to it, because a lot of people had the same assumption that due to the Windrush scandal, Labour would have won a lot within the ethnic minorities, where ethnic minorities live. But then also Labour had their own issue with
they have their own issue, anti-Semitism. Look,
within Labour.
People think politics is just what it is in the pages of newspaper. No, there are diehard, irrespective of what the party does. It's just like football fans. Football fans too. There are diehards. I saw a friend yesterday, and that's as old as 60-something, who told me that if Arsenal go to championship, it's in Arsenal. So that's the way party, apart from the neutrals in London, who wants to read headlines, but majority of those who support party support it because of generational support, or they support because of something they benefited directly from that party. So it's difficult for few pages of newspapers headlines to take them away from that line.
With this story,
difficult,
the Windrush story with the woman coming back.
Because don't forget that Labour is linked to this too.
Yeah.
So except the fact that it was Conservative that executed it, the plan was laid by Labour.
But I just wanted to touch on how the government has responded in light of the scandal.
The casualties have come. Amaro has gone. It's taking the form for the minister, for the prime minister. That's the truth of the matter. She's taking the form, but she will come back. Because, as I said several weeks ago, in politics about we, they will come back. But they are responding well. They recognize the scandal. They've apologized severally. Now we've heard, and we are putting compensation across. Now, I won't be. I'm not surprised to find it in the pages of newspaper now. The first woman to return, an old woman, that emotional, they will celebrate it.
I'm surprised that they make the front page actually.
It will make the front page. I mean, what do you expect? Yeah, that is to tell you that we are part of this government and the government is responding. I'm not surprised. I'm even surprised that it's just Sun. I was expecting it's going to make front pages of all papers.
Okay, but it makes the front page of the Mirror.
Mirror,
the Sun.
So that's the way they will do it. At this time, you want to hold on to the slightest of good news. That's what government is going to use this for. And I won't be surprised that you find it in brochures now, in publication now, that we are responding.
But are you expecting the Daily Mail to put this on their front page? I mean, the Daily Mail will not put it on their front page. I'm saying that the government will celebrate any little success now. This is a success story from government. And because now what the media have covered have been that this is bad, where we now find one who say, I'm back, I'm happy to return home. They will celebrate it naturally. They must hang on to the slightest of good stories. Is this a good story? Well, the good thing is she the whole story of Gretel, my good friend Gretel, is she's a great grandmother. She actually was on the boat of the Windrush. She met her husband on the Windrush. They came into this country, they led a life, they had children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, etc. She goes to Jamaica to do something, and boom, she's stuck. Why? Because they say her papers are not good, which was a very terrible thing, but they were using that. And you see, these are governmental powers trying to keep you away. Can you imagine that your whole life you only think you're going for 2 weeks and then you're stuck? It's embarrassing. Apart from no money, no this, no that.
Are you going
to
turn to?
This is a good example. I'm happy. And the fact that she was on the Windrush as well. Here she is, she's back with her children, grandchildren, etc. And we hope that, the rest of her years are comfortable.
I mean, what came in light of this Windrush issue is the fact that there are a lot of people whose cases, the Home Office haven't been dealt with for years. I saw a documentary on Channel 4 News where these were young girls.
Yes, yeah.
Grew up here, I think no more than 20 plus, and they had to go and sign in every month at the Home Office. Now, and their worry was they could go and sign in and be detained.
Yes, that's always the process. Yeah. You just go and sign one day and you're picked up.
You're picked up. And
that may be the end, yeah.
And that will be the end. And I think the conversation is to steer towards that area, that they need to get a response from their Home Office. The process needs to be much quicker, because the longer it takes them, you can't work. You have access. You don't have access to anything. So if you don't have family,
the most agonizing part of the case was the fact that the people involved are not even being informed by the Home Office before writing to the employer. You can imagine when you come to work.
Yeah.
And your boss says,
I'm told by your boss that you are no longer working. Yeah. You are not even aware. You want explanation, but no, that's not true. And here is your boss showing you a letter from Home Office that you yourself, you have no knowledge of. That could be very terrible. I
think that when they're systematic, you see, this is why the gentleman wrote the book saying that the country, is institutionally racist. And these things happen only to black people who, there's a system where they can weaken you in such a way that you have no power. You become confused. Now, there are a lot of people who could get legal representation, and therefore, but they will
withdrawn-
do
they've
it
withdrawn
to the
because
ones.
Cameron withdrew that long time ago.
Yeah.
No. I agree with what you're saying because in one of the reports it said that they were targeting
Yeah, the
people
ones-
that had
the
no
poor-
family,
yeah.
Yes.
so they weren't aware of their legal rights.
Yeah,
So they picked
yeah.
them up and they just deport.
Yeah.
All right, we're taking another break. When we come back, we will look at stories trending across the continent. We'll be back after this commercial.
I haven't had tea.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global. This program is brought to you by
Welcome back to Talk Africa. In the studio today we have Candykisseih, who is a social commentator, also a radio host here at GN Radio. Also Idris Adesina,
Beautiful Candy there.
Yes.
Young old thing.
Idris Adesina, editor of Alternative Africa. You know, funny enough, this morning I said to Candy, why were you named Candy? And she said when she was born, she was the most beautiful baby in the ward.
Yorkshire.
In Yorkshire. So I was expecting a different accent.
So
but unfortunately,
she was born in Yorkshire.
In Yorkshire, yeah.
And this is Ghanaian Yorkshire.
You guys.
All right, now let's look at stories trending across the continent, and we move over to Ghana. Now, the new Patriotic Party Member of Parliament for Asin Central Constituency in the Central Region, Canada, Japan, has taken former President John Dramani Mahama to the cleaners for asking illegal miners, popularly known as Galamsey, to vote against NPP in 2020 elections because they have been thrown out of jobs. Kiki, let me come to you because when this story came out, this is the former president of Ghana, Mahama. I think it was during the peace walk in Kumasi, and where he made a speech saying that the government has been counterproductive in their ways to fight against illegal mining. However, if they vote for NDC 2020, they will get their jobs back.
You know, I mean, first of all, I never thought that I'll be agreeing with Kennedy Japan on any issue. However, I am also equally disappointed with what the ex-president said. How can he say that? People's lands are being destroyed by these illegal miners. They are digging, and the word is illegal. And he allowed these people to come into the country to wreck it. These are people's lands. These are farming lands that by the time the people finish, you can't use the land anymore. Therefore, I think that for him to have said this and to incite them is very deadly. Something should be done about it. I think John Mahama should be punished for this unfortunate...
To be punished for
freedom of
speech. But
I hope you are not a carry member of NDC.
Today is Friday.
I want us to move the conversation to the whole illegal mining aspect of it. I mean, we know the repercussion. We know what it does to lands, villages, how it affects human beings on the land.
The water.
And this cannot be politicized, or shouldn't be.
No, every issue in Africa is politicized. Or let's say every issue when it comes to politics anywhere in the world, whether it is which road issue we are talking about here, there's an element of politics there. We're already talking that maybe it could help Labour in this kind of election. But you expect just Dick, Tom and Harry to say these things. You don't expect a man,
a president,
a former president,
who
was also a victim of this.
What do you mean a victim?
Yes, when he was president, he was also going illegal thing was also going on in the country. He should know better.
But he wasn't a victim.
No. What I'm saying is that the economy of the country was also a victim under his leadership.
Well,
people will be crying under his leadership too. No. Why he was in power? What was his policy on illegal?
Exactly.
What was his power?
He wasn't a victim. He was not a victim. Because if he can make this kind of statement, it means he doesn't understand what everyone else is getting worked up about.
No.
Water is affected. Farming is affected.
They do.
Let Kiki finish and you come in.
You see, look. They come onto your land, and somebody on Facebook, and even it was all over social media, was showing the contrast of, if you go to China, most of the illegal miners are being headed by huge Chinese corporations. They pay them. If you look, Their countries, their water, everything is beautiful. And then you come to Ghana and they dig huge holes. Then they use the water, it's the whole,
yes, the water
and the
system
minerals,
passes through,
the
yes.
minerals they are using to do the mining is entering into our
Contaminates the water.
water, yes. And children are getting sick, people are dying. So when you talk about people dying, the fact that you can't farm anymore because of the minerals and all of the things they use to do the mines, and the fact that they leave cavernous holes on the land, what is happening that he doesn't understand? He's not a victim. He doesn't see himself. He's removed from it. Nobody's going to his area to dig for, because there's nothing there in his area. It is our areas, our lush green lands that are being wrecked. He is not a victim. He is helping the perpetrator.
Look,
Okay.
what I'm telling you here is, you expect this from just anybody in the country, not a former manager of the Ghana's economy. But unfortunately, that is the level of politicking in Africa. If a former president who should understand, who understands much better the crime of illegal mining, the consequences of it, not just to the individuals, but to the economy of a nation. Under his leadership, illegal mining didn't just start under this government in Ghana. He's been there all years when he was the president. How could you come and make such a derogatory statement, not about the Ghana, but about himself? Because most literate people will turn that thing back on him. But so this is this is who you are. Now that you left power, this is how vulnerable. This is what you can. I'm so angry to get such a statement from
the
a person of that nature.
Quickly, Kiki.
Can I just say that, you see, the issue is simply this. There's a lot of poverty in Africa, basically. There's a lot of poverty in Ghana, in where they call grassroots areas.
Yeah.
So here we are, people do get some income from this illegal mining because somebody is paying them to do all of the things that they're doing. And then you come up and say, oh, you guys don't vote for this guy, because if you do, he's going to stop you from, the fight of this illegal mining is going on.
So it's turned into poverty issue.
So yes,
It
is
a
poverty issue.
I want to come in because then, the point of contention here has been unemployment. Because
Yes.
This is the ones involved in illegal mining, the daily bread. And majority of them are people on the poverty side.
Underneath the
And
poverty
underneath
line.
the poverty line. So if the current government is not able to create a job for them, then they're more likely to go back. And this is what I think, yes, anything illegal should be seen as illegal for the benefit of the country. I think they need to clamp down on it. However, I don't think it should be just one-sided. The unemployment side too needs to be looked at and addressed by the government.
I agree to that. But let me also take you to another dimension about it. These people doing illegal thing in Ghana or anywhere in the world, they're not the only people affected by poverty. There are some also poverty-stricken family who did not do this. So you can't say because there's poverty in the country, you're going to steal somebody's property.
No,
that is exactly what they are doing. I understand that government will do that. Government should try. But look, let's not kid ourselves. Government, there's nowhere in the world where everybody has a job. There's nowhere in the world. I stand to be corrected. But government should do more in African countries, but that is not an excuse for illegality. No. Because what they are doing, and I can tell you here, although I'm not there in Ghana to know who are who, they are just working for some greedy politicians, greedy people who take advantage of them. Because they are poor. Go and do this, take this little one. They take the mirrors. Look at the difference between what they are paid and what they mime and give to that person.
Yeah.
It's a crime. They are just being used to commit this crime. And if you trace them back, you will find them in high places.
All right. Now let's move on for time's sake. Let's look at another story. This happened in South Africa. A young girl was murdered. The case has been going on for a while now, and finally the judge has issued a sentence against a young man who murdered his girlfriend. And the story reads: after Karabo Mokwena's boyfriend, Sandile Mansoe, 27, was found guilty of her murder by acting Judge Pete Johnson in a high court in Johannesburg yesterday. He was handed a harsh sentence on Thursday. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison on assault. On the murder, he received 30 years. On obstruction of justice, he received 4 years. His effective sentence was therefore 32 years in jail after some of the years were allowed to run concurrently with count 2. Now, this is to do with domestic violence. And in South Africa, this is prevalent in South Africa. The judge, in his statement, made a firm statement saying that this is a strong warning for people who commit such acts.
I agree with the judge, hands down. In fact, I'm in awe of the judge to make this. I hope that he did not make this judgment because they were mad, poor people, and he would not, if he had the opportunity for a rich person's son or a rich man in society or somebody high up in society, would not get the same judgment. There was the issue where in South Africa murder was 15 years, and so he'd given him 30, and some people are disagreeing with it and all that. I think this guy should have had the life, personally. The judge also, in his summation, said that he was sentencing him, one, because he was not remorseful.
Yes,
I read through the whole thing and realized, yes, he wasn't remorseful at all.
He played the victim.
Yeah, he rather was the victim. Yeah. You've killed the girl, and yet you think you have rights on the issue. I don't understand. Now, this has to be taken into the whole of Africa. This example, this news should be shared in all of Africa for people to know. One of the things that I am advocating for, and I've joined a group, it's called Gwen, and it's women uplifting other women and helping women. And I'm very vocal there sometimes. And one of the things I want is, if a man is arrested for domestic violence, they should look for where his mother is arrested to. Be shared in all of Africa for people to know. Right. I want that people become aware that sometimes people incite other people, go and teach you and all of this. I want people to learn that domestic violence is a no-no, and it has to be the punishment must fit the crime. If you beat her, you should be whipped publicly. I'm looking for those kind of things so that men realize, and I'm only speaking for the victim, the woman, that if a man beats his wife, this is what should happen.
So if a woman beats his husband?
I haven't got there yet.
But the issue is, I want to be very careful here, because one, it's not peculiar to South Africa alone.
Yeah.
In Ghana, in Nigeria, we have these cases. In smaller countries of Africa, we have it. And we also have some judges who are upright. This is an example of an upright judge. But you made a point there that we hope that it's a general judgment. It's what the law says. It's not about when it's the poor, he gets this, when it's the rich, he's allowed to circumvent the law or get the lesser judgment. This is an example, because for so many times, people do not realize when people get left off the hook of law. They do not realize the implication it is for every common man who feels that, oh, that guy is gone, what have they done to him? There are ripple effects of those things. If you allow somebody to get away with crime of this magnitude, just think of what the effect is going to be on those. I mean, we saw the pictures of the guy who was killed, the Vincent who was killed And you saw what his colleagues were doing there. They came to attack journalists because they think he's a hero.
Yeah, you see,
That is the kind of thing it could have if you don't allow. But this is a good one. We just hope that more of this will come, and more of it serve as deterrence to those who are in this line.
Okay, now let's move on, Idris. And Idris, you published this story. This is to do with Nairobi. After banning plastic bags, Kenya is now moving towards punishing anyone who litters the streets.
Yeah, it was exactly that attracted me to the story. When we got the story, I said, "Oh, this is wonderful." Yes. Although sometimes you want to sit back as an individual and say, "Come on, £1,000, $1,000 charges," but it's a punishment. There's nothing, and the good thing about that punishment is that it's not just when you commit the crime. Now, if you commit that crime 10 times, you're going to pay 10 times. Yeah. That's to tell you how much and how well government wants that thing to dwell in the hands of the Kenyans. That look, this government will not tolerate any nonsense. This is problem to us. Huge pile of rubbish is everywhere in Africa now. I think about 2 or 3 months ago, there was a global campaign against this issue. Cities across the world, not only Africa alone, that are dirty. The Kenyan government has come heavily. What a wonderful story.
Especially, look, now across the continent, you know, when you go back home, you see a lot of waste everywhere. It is everywhere. But there are waste management companies who have contracts with governments.
We have.
Now, see, this is what baffles me at times. It's not that these companies do not exist; they do exist, but then the citizens tend not to use it. They're more familiar with, you know, I can just pick up this and just throw this anywhere. So with this story, the government's saying that they do have the waste management around. So anybody found not using what is in place will get a fine. And if this was to be sent across the continent, I'm sure a lot of people will start changing their ways.
Well, if you go to Rwanda, it is said, I haven't been, but it is said that Rwanda is beautiful. Now, Rwanda is beautiful because...
No, Kigali is beautiful.
Kigali.
Kigali is not Rwanda.
Beautiful.
Kigali is the capital of Rwanda.
Yeah.
Kigali is beautiful. That's where the problem is in Africa. Our concentration is always on the seat of power.
Well, the point is that there is an area in Africa called Kigali that is in Rwanda that is beautiful. The roads are clean, everything is lovely, and people, there are waste rubber, places where you put your rubbish, etc. Now, in Africa, in Ghana, for example, we do have huge gutters, and everyone keeps putting rubbish and they have that pure water. And then they just drop it.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare across the continent.
Now also we have companies like Zoomlion and they are supposed to go to houses. So in the beautiful estates and all of that, they are all paying money to Zoomlion so that they collect their rubbish. Now, Zoomlion is given a concession by the government and they go and they don't. So for weeks, the rubbish is piled up and is continually piling up, even in the beautiful area. Okay. So now you can imagine what's happening in town.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's touched that area very well.
Yeah,
the issue is
on the break.
Okay. Let's come back from the break.
All right, let's take another break. When we come back, we'll talk more. We'll be back shortly.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global. This program is brought to you by Pay Global.
Welcome back to the program. Just to let you know, we are live on Sky Channel 182. You can also listen to us on GN Radio on Sky Channel 0185 or on TuneIn. You can also join the conversation on our Facebook page, Gntv UK. Now you can call into the studio on 0203-735-8820 or 0203-286-0185. Now let's move on as we're looking at stories trending across the continent. And another story I want us to look at is that the president and chairman of Group Indum, Dr. Papakwesi Indum, has given a sum of 80,000 Ghana cedis to students of the Indum School of Business and Technology. And to discuss this issue with us, we have Business Liaison Manager Fred Menu on the line. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Fred. When this news broke, spoken to a few people in Ghana about this news, and a lot of people are excited, particularly the amount of money that's been given to young people to help them in terms of the business startups. Fred.
Yes, thanks very much. I think it's quite an exciting news for especially young people who are considering taking their undergraduate programs in Ghana, especially when we have a situation for a long time for graduates not finding jobs. You would not want to go to a university that will not equip you with the necessary skills to find your feet actually on the job market. So what Dr. Indum did was that he gave 80,000, as you rightly indicated, as a seed capital for the pioneering students of the university to come up with an idea so that that idea will now be translated into a company which they will form with that money, and also to run that company. It's practice. I mean, really walking the talk. He's not only looking at establishing a university that will only add to the numbers, but establishing a university that is actually linked to groups of companies that he himself has actually helped to establish, over 60 currently across the globe, and also to equip the students with the skills required to run a real business. So it's quite exciting, and I think it's making waves out there that if I was to enroll in a university and given an opportunity of a seed money to come up with an idea and form a company, and have also on that company board of directors who are actually the top in the industry as far as the senior management of his groups of companies are concerned, I think it's something really worth emulating by others. But of course, Dr. Indum has actually made the name out there in different aspects of business, and I think translating it into the arena of education wouldn't really surprise anyone who actually follows his trend of development.
And just a quick one, would Dr. Indum himself play an active role in this initiative?
Absolutely. So Dr. Indum is the president of the Indum School of Business and Technology, which you will find in Elmina. And, the school currently offers courses in business and information technology, business management. So, he himself is at the center of the whole thing, investing that seed capital for the new students who literally are the pioneering members of that university. And Dr. himself will steer these students' decisions that they are going to make, help them with his experience, which he has gained over this extensive period in the field of business, and enable them to establish a company that is not only for a project, but will thrive. He has said that he will invest as much as possible in this particular venture to make sure that when the Ghanaian student attends a university, he will not only come out with a certificate, but he will come up with a skill of first forming a company or coming up with an idea, getting the idea shaped by industry players, translating the idea into a business venture, running the business to make profit, and actually also employing other people on that same business. Jones, I think I have been through at least 2 universities, and I never had this experience, not even in the developed world, where a seed capital is given to me to come up with an idea and form a company, and also get the necessary assistance throughout the process. So it's something that we need to let everybody know, that if you have a ward in Ghana who wants to do an undergraduate program, then get them to Indum School of Business and Technology, because at least they have an assurance that after the educational period within the school, they will find a job. It's just as simple as that. And the businesses of the group are scattered all over the globe. I mean, we are over 60 companies scattered in Ghana, in the US, you find us in Liberia, you find us in Togo, you find us in Cote d'Ivoire, and you find us in the United Kingdom, of course, Jones. So it's quite exciting, an initiative by the president of Indum School of Business Technology, and who is also the president of the group Indum in the world. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Fred, for talking to us this morning. That was Fred Menu, Business Liaison Manager for Group Indum in Europe. Now, let me bring you in, Idris, of this initiative, because recently the president of Ghana came out and spoke about the level of unemployment in the country, and he's yet to roll out some new initiative to help tackle the level of unemployment, where to get especially graduates who have just come out of the schooling system, trying to get them into jobs. And looking at what Dr. Papakwesi Indum is offering now, it more or less ties into it, because unemployment has been something that has been troubling the country for a very, very long time.
Yeah, may I recall that about a few weeks ago we discussed something like probably teaching our kids in school business enterprise skills. I remember, you recall you did that. This is not just doing that. This is gone steps ahead to actually sowing a seed. For everything you learn in school, you have the ability to practicalize it now. It's a real gesture which the Indum business enterprise is offering. Not only the money now, the expertise to have the man himself sitting on the board to guide the students. It's wonderful. Yes, the only thing there is how many are the beneficiaries. That is the next step. Yes, how many are the beneficiaries? The more, the better. Again, that also takes us to another dimension. The dimension I spoke about some few weeks ago, ability to access capital in African countries. And I said at that time that you and I are being begged every day by the banks. There's a letter in your mail every day that you have qualified. If you open your account online, you find this thing there. With the management of your account, you are qualified for certain overdraft. You are qualified for certain loans, which if you go through, you will get it without anything. It's just.
But then remember, a few weeks ago, I think we broke the news actually with regards to the group Indum Bank securing a loan to help the rural areas. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That if we have access, if the access to finance is made more easier, broader, and that particularly the younger generations who, for instance, now use Indum School of Technology and Business, they've gone through that thing, these seeds, they've shown reasonable skills of management. There's nothing bad in fast-tracking them to access to loan by the government, and they have the guidance, not just giving them the loan that matters now, but the guidance. This is what the Indum system is offering, not just the loan to people or seed now, but the guidance of technical experts from that same businesses. And the more, that is a wonderful experience, and I hope that others who have, because I know there are more who are richer than Dr. Indum in that country, they should also take advantage of it. This is what government is saying, that look, government cannot do everything. But again, government can reciprocate the gesture by offering them tax rebate. It's 50-50. You do this, you get this from us. Just to bring the more out of poverty line. It's a wonderful experience.
Let me get
Initiative, rather.
Kiki's take on this.
Yeah, when you mentioned about how many people were going to
Access to this,
benefit,
yes,
is it the whole university of all of the children in the university in Elmina who will get it, or just the best 6?
Well, as it's done, 8 students.
8 students,
Yeah,
okay.
8 students.
I think that's good.
It's a pioneer scheme. So
Yeah.
I think that also, you know, in this is the Ghanaian version of apprentice, basically,
Yes.
because he's got the good 8, and he's going to thunder them forward to do something. I think the rest of the children in the university as well will try to aim to get into that 8th number every year. I think it is such a great coup for Indom to make. I applaud him for that. I applaud him for that very much, because there are very few incentives for people to do anything. Especially, we have graduates who don't have jobs.
Yeah.
We have people who've gone through the medical, and that is one of my bugbears, especially women who've gone through the medical course and done the whole, and yet they haven't got jobs.
Touching on, speaking of medical, I think we need to move on to our next story. And Idris, it's been reported that the number of Nigerian doctors working in the UK has been increasing, according to research by fact-checking organisation Africa Check. Last year, the number of Nigerian doctors registered with the UK General Medical Council nearly doubled, an increase of 89%. In 2016, the total of 245 doctors registered in the UK. The number sharply rose to 439 last year, taking the number of doctors what they're trying to say is it has increased. And the other day we had Funke in the studio where she said, look, in terms of the immigration rules, they tend to say we want the best people from the country to come here and work. Other than that, the rest can stay.
No, they can stay.
And then we look at the health sector.
Do you want to blame them?
No, I don't. But then again, we look at the health sector across the continent, and is in dire states. And we keep producing good medical doctors, and they keep leaving and going overseas.
Yes, you just mentioned Nigeria alone. Nigeria here, the fact about Nigeria here, if you go and check, I know there will be more Egyptians doctors in this country more than any other countries in Africa. The system is designed to attract the best from
Egyptian?
Africa. Yeah.
Why do you say Egyptian?
No, because I have worked on that story, and I know a good number of them are in this country, particularly health sector. It's something you're talking of India, doctors here, a lot of them here in Afghanistan. The system is designed to attract the best. It's not only UK alone, all developed countries. US, the best of their doctors are not, the majority of them are not, but they are not US citizens. That's what they do to them. Again, you can't stop that. It's a global world. Migration, they move. These people are incentivized there. Not only that, they have access to the best of education here. They want to work with the best, because when you produce a doctor and he comes to where it's advanced, the technology they use here is bigger than what they use in Africa. You can't stop them, no matter what you give them at home as intended, except you reproduce. But the good thing about them is this: it's not only working here. A good number of them are also setting up outreach back home. Doctors that borders and and they go back home every year. I know a group of people go back home every year to produce wonderful surgeries, free back home. So it is 50-50. But again, I understand where you're going. The best of them are leaving the country.
Yes. And
that's the trouble.
The other day when Funke was here, I asked her this question. To try and solve this issue, wouldn't it be better if there was, to say, a quota system? Because the doctors have gone through, they went through their medical practices through the country that helped them to attain such levels. So wouldn't it be better, for instance, for them to practice for X amount of years before they tend to move overseas?
If I want to think about my country, and I want my people to be well, health-wise, and I want them to be looked after by the best doctors, of course, I would say, yes, quota system. However, if I am a doctor And I think that America wants me, or some country wants me, and I can do my best work. Because you see, to be a good doctor as well, but people do not realize that doctors do research. They do testing. They are constantly looking and learning and doing all sorts of things to make their job even better. I have met and come across a woman doctor. She's Iranian, and she's a heart surgeon. And the amazement of how she did an operation on a baby in a woman's womb, on the baby's heart, and the baby was born later. Oh my God. I was so shocked and so in awe. But she had all of the equipment, and it was years of studying.
Yes.
All of these things I'm talking about are not possible in our continent. Our continent is bleeding of a brain drain. It's hemorrhaging it because people have to come out to do what they do. So when you talk about Doctors Without Borders and all of that, I think it is admirable that they feed back what they, and they're grateful to their mother countries for educating them. But I also think that when we have ministers of health, when we have people in places in government, do they not think about these things? What happens to all of the money that the government generates and churns? What happens to them? Now, there is a big factor about finance going back into Ghana, which is people working abroad and sending money to, and it looks like the amount of money that is going back into our homes in Africa, etc., is becoming more than what we actually make to sell, to give out into the money that people are remitting. Remittances.
I published a story about a few weeks ago where we had a category from the World Bank.
And that, I know you want to go to a break, but that is so much that if these people are not doing these professional jobs outside,
they won't be able to.
There will not be money.
Okay, we're taking another break. When we come back, we will look at our main topic of the day. In case you're wondering what we're talking about, we're asking, why do some African societies spend a lot of money on funeral? That's what we're talking about when we come back. We'll be back shortly.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global. This program is brought to you by Pay Global.
Welcome back to Talk Africa with me, Jones Ewa. This part of the program, I would like to hear your experience, okay? You can call into the studio 0203-735-8820 or 0203-286-0185. The numbers should be up on your screen. Funerals in some African societies are not an occasion to mourn. It's also an occasion to celebrate a life of a dear one. Funerals are a social event attended by a large number of mourners, which could reach hundreds. The more, the better. And in some cases, expenditure on having a funeral could go from 12,000 to over 15,000 pounds. The basic funeral will cost about around 3,000 to about 6,000 pounds. So today the question we're posing is this: why do some African societies spend a lot of money on funerals? You can call in 0203-735-8820 or 0203-286-0185. Candy.
Why are Africans? The question though is a little bit baffling. Are you saying that
some African countries?
Yeah, but is it? Is the funeral
most African
but is it here or in Africa?
In general,
everywhere.
It's
No.
even worse
Okay.
here.
Because, all right, let's look at
Okay.
this in two parts. Okay?
Yeah.
Because people in the diaspora tend to go back. Okay, so you can talk from the diaspora's point of view, and the people back home as well.
Look, you may think that it's expensive, but do you know the person's
This is a
pocket?
woman in you now.
Yes. Do you know that the person's pocket? That's case one. Case two is, so my mother passes away. My mother has been good to me. If it wasn't for my mother, where would I be? Now, people, this is hypothetical. Don't go thinking anything. So I'm thinking about the good things that, and look, even in Egypt, this is historic. Years ago, hundreds of years ago, when a human being dies, there are all sorts of things that is done to the body. All sorts of rituals that is done in culture.
You said Egypt long years ago.
I said anywhere.
Egypt is in Africa too.
And I'm talking about Africa.
Yes.
I'm not talking about Europe.
Yes.
I'm talking about Africa. All sorts of things are done that is, culturally, traditionally, what happens to the body, what happens to where they live and all of that. And then everyone in the group of where they live, family, friends, etc., come. And when they come, if it is their way that the funeral takes a day, after the whole rituals and things are done, human beings are fed. That is where the money goes. So it can be basic. So everybody comes, you borrow money. This is hundreds of years ago I'm talking about. You borrow money, people give money, and then you bury your dead. Burying your dead is a whole ritual. It is thanking the person, if it is a mother, a father, blah, 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 or it is just the love you have for the person that you're burying. So let us park that aside and keep that in your mind.
Okay, I'm trying to.
Keep it in your mind.
If it doesn't get inside.
Roll back roll forward
Yes.
into the now.
Yeah.
Now,
21st century.
yes, 2018.
Yes.
So somebody's person dies, and then the person decides that this person's body, my beloved person who's just passed away, deserves a good burial. A good burial. So you order a gold carriage.
So what is that definition of a good burial?
This is where I'm going with this. So you order a very gold. The coffin is in the size of something else. Everything is done.
Specification.
Yes. and then you put your body, the person in there, and then you
Some of them
invite.
put some money there for the dead to spend in heaven.
Well, that is the money that we give to the dead, and I'm not making fun of this at all, and I want you to be very respectful of the dead who've been buried with money.
Yes, I would do that. As best
The
of my
money
knowledge.
is not to go and spend in heaven. There is no shopping in heaven. It is to cross the rivers that you have been told that you will cross.
Okay, so some spiritual aspect of it.
Yes.
I'm getting
And
educated
when
now.
people, so yeah, you give them money, you do all these things, and
So
you
that
bury
is-
them.
They spend that currency in heaven.
No, there is no heaven at all.
Idris, let Kiki finish.
Idris, listen to me.
I'm listening.
I said, roll back to 2018. We are still doing what we did before. Each country has their own customs and traditions on how to be. So there is the basic situation where culturally you give the person money, you do all the things that you're talking about, etc., etc., etc. Now we're talking of the reception. It is there that money is spent, and also it is because you are inviting all these people, so this is your chance to show off, etc. A basic funeral is still in the thousands. Just going to any, in this country, just go to any funeral home, ordering a coffin, this, that, is £5,000. The cheapest is £5,000. Or you have a pauper's burial where they just throw the person into some grave
you
with
call
a
it
few.
paupers?
Yeah.
See, look at that.
Yes, but there is a
let Kiki
pauper's
finish.
burial. Now, you are making jokes about it, but I'm telling you
Because it's
now
joking.
that
It's
in
a
this
joke.
country, we have two types of burial where you take on and bury your person, and the cheapest will be £5,000.
Yeah.
And then if you go to the pauper's ways, where the person has no relatives, and the council buries your person, then they are burying them in a hole with a few other people, or it's either cremation, but you have no control over what happens to the body. Now, you could look at it like, fine, I can't afford it, so let the council bury this person. I'm not going to get involved. I think that if you have love for your relative, you're not going to throw them away in that way. So therefore, money is involved. Now, if you bury your person and spend £50,000, I suppose you can afford it. It is up to
So
you.
it's down to
It should be-
individual.
it should be-
If
Yeah,
they're able
it's-
to afford it
yeah.
or not. Okay, let
Yeah.
me get
Now,
Idris'
let's hear you.
This is madness. We acquired this culture long time ago. And I think what is dynamic about culture is that it keeps moving with time.
Yeah.
But that aspect of our life has refused to change. And it's madness. It's part of our awkward, it's part of our backward life we spend. One is this. We acquire this from cultural beliefs. Kiki has given the background to it. The other aspect of it is that that culture is also linked to where we had 2, 5, 6, 7, 8 wives. In Africa, then, one of the things they use the children for is to farm. One again is when I die, the world must know I have children. 6, 8 of them come here so that the world will know. I am talking from experience. My dad had 8 wives. And because of the polygamy, competition comes in. When daddy was buried, everybody has to come and show the world that my children, the children from this mother, they are big children. Everybody has to bring cows and bring these. You know the funniest aspect of my father's burial, who was the king in my village, that day said, this is too beautiful a burial. I must marry more wives. I must have more children to come and do this. It's cultural to us. I understand where the culture comes from. That, yes, you want to show love for your father who are taking care of you, for your mother who are done that. But for God's sake, things are changing. The economy then was not what the economy is now. To get stuck, the madness aspect of it is people who go and borrow money.
Yeah.
Rather than borrow money to invest in business, they want to borrow money now to invest in burial, something that doesn't generate income again. And it's so bad now that you expect people who live in diaspora, who had been influenced by certain culture, to also respond positively. No, they get worse. In this country, I will speak something they call Owambe Party now. is everybody goes there with clothes. They spend huge amount of money.
At funerals?
Yes.
It's the same.
It's the same. But here, it's pure madness. We need to change. People are dropping out of school. The most embarrassing is the families whose children are dropped out of school still find money for burial. It's wrong in this modern world. Yes, just as 658 wives were beautiful in years past, they are criminal now. They're no longer fashionable. Things that are not fashionable in our culture, we should drop it. This is not good. It doesn't reflect good on us. They laugh at us. For instance, now, your father had died. You are mourning your father, you are mourning your mother, and you are still clinking glasses. The ridiculous aspect of this are people building money in coffee. Say, according to Kiki now, when you are crossing the road, which road is there? It's
the river.
Which river is there?
It's the river.
There's no river in heaven when there is no shopping center in heaven.
You see, you are getting it wrong.
It is wrong.
Can I just explain? Can I just explain? Yeah, let me explain to you. We believe, and this is not a whole African issue, but this is just Ghana. We believe that when you die, you have, and there's a song, and I'm sure the person who wrote that song has ancestors from Ghana, because many rivers to cross. You have a few rivers to cross. The river, and
do you believe in those rivers?
Can you just hold on a second while I explain to you, because
that song was from Jimmy Cliff.
Yeah, well, he was a Ghanaian.
Many rivers to cross.
Yeah, you are. So so there you go. When you die, and it's not a thing that I believe, but this is what we're told, that when you die, you will cross a few rivers. Each river has a reason, and it is after you've crossed all of those rivers that you see. If you're a Muslim, you're going one way. If you're a Christian, whatever. But those rivers must be crossed, and you need a person who is rowing the thing to take you across to the next river. So you have to give the person a coin.
And they know the currency they spend.
Because of that, you are given coins. Because that is all that you will have. So these coins are wrapped up. It's it's traditional, and it is, for us Ghanaians, it is across board. So these coins are given to you, and then with your body and buried. Hopefully the spirit will come and take this coin and go with you across those rivers. It could even be that it is not actually physical, but it is, something that we believe, or something that happens.
However, isn't it a myth?
Yeah, well, whatever it is, it could be a myth, it could be anything. However, this is how we believe it. Now, you may find it strange. You see, we Ghanaians, for example, we don't bury our dead dressed up in fineries. It is totally unheard of. For us, when a person dies, you have to give that dead person respect. If it was a sad death, you wear red. If it is just a death, a person grows up and dies, you wear black, which is across board. But if it is a person who hit 90, 91, 92,
it's a celebration of life.
It is a celebration of life, so we wear white. Now, all of these colors that I've said, they are in a certain type of material that everybody has. It is nothing, it is not gaudy, there is no bling on it. It is plain and simple, because we are burying our dead. Everybody who comes to help you is clothed in those same clothes. We do not make a big party the way you describe. We do not wear fineries because we are in pain. Most of the time, people bury their dead and make such a big deal because they want to show their love. And it is love that One of the things.
Is it love really, or about status?
There's status there, but the underlying is love.
Status.
But status is what, if you can afford it, you go overboard.
No, because as soon as you brought Ghana in there, because people could say that the person was buried like to say
a dog,
a chicken or a dog.
Yes.
If the person dies and they get buried and it's just small people turn up,
it's like a dog.
You got buried.
Can I just let you know?
Show that it's a human being.
Okay. Yeah, it's a human being. It's not a dog. So when you are burying somebody, your human person that you love, first of all, other people come, and everybody that comes in my country, I'm talking about, I don't know about yours, and a few other countries that I know, family and friends make donations. The donations are to cover the food, this, that, and the other.
You have introduced another dimension, beautiful dimension to it.
A lot of fights and argument. We're taking another break. We have a caller on the line. Do bear with us. Stay on the line. We're taking another break. When we come back, we'll read some of your messages on Facebook and also take more calls. We'll be back shortly.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global. This program is brought to you by Pay Global.
Welcome back to the program. You can join our discussion today. We're asking, why do some African societies spend a lot of money on funerals? Okay, you can let us know your experiences, what you think about it. Is it a myth that has captured the minds of Africans, or do you think that there's a reasonable what do you say?
A reasonable ground.
Yeah, reasonable ground for us to keep following this. You can call into the studio 0203 735 8820 or 0203 286 0185. Now I'll go onto our Facebook page, Gntv UK. I've had a personal experience of this. Now
You've got to be very careful.
I have to be careful, but I believe in honesty. You need to be honest to our listeners and viewers.
A member of your family.
Yes, a member of my family. Well, I'm not ashamed to say it's my father. My father passed away, and at that time I was just 20 or 21, and everything just happened so quickly. He passed away here, so we had to take him to Ghana, and everything happened so quickly. And the cloth that we had to get, it was the first time I actually put on a cloth. And I've said this story before. I never knew how to do it, so I refused to move, because the moment you move, everything comes down.
Oh, okay. That's the first time you have to wear your leg.
So I had to sit down in the baking sun 20 hours just sitting. I'm not moving.
Because it won't come down.
Yeah, it won't come down. My brother was laughing at me. Anyway, but to cut a long story short, okay, we had musicians. A lot of people came there because my father was well known in that village. He was once a teacher, came to Accra and everything. So a lot of people turned up. The kings, the chiefs, you name it. And I was just sitting there.
Mom was very happy to showcase all of you.
No.
No. I didn't understand. Although I've been to funerals before, it didn't hit home until it happened to me. And then where he was laid in the state, it hit home. And then it wasn't until later on I was thinking to myself, okay, so why was all of this done? And was it necessary? Because of that amount of money that was spent to get everything together. In the end, as you said, he's giving birth to strong four boys and 3 girls, and they've looked after their dad and what have you not. But for me personally, I started thinking, I was asking questions. So why do you do this? I love my dad. I respect him. He left with his dignity. He made sure everything. But was it necessary? Now, in the village where he was buried, if you look at the tombstone, I don't think they've had anything quite like that. And I think it was a heavy investment. It was a befitting funeral for him.
It was a funeral.
But
remove the befitting.
Back and doing my analysis as you do, you reflect. And, I asked that question. Was it really necessary to go that extra mile? I do love my dad, as you said. But enough ranting for me. Let's take our first caller. Let's hear what our caller has to say. Hello, good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, good morning. This is Dr. Morton.
Hi, Dr. Morton. What would you like to say?
First of all, I'd like to say good morning to Idris, my brother, Kiki, and yourself.
Your sister anymore.
She said my sister Kiki.
What are you at the moment? You're no longer Kiki. Did you say you're no longer Kiki?
No, I said you carry on.
Well, I never knew you were a Man U fan. I never know that the best team in the world is Man U.
Let's hear you, Dr. Morton.
I don't think Idris remembers me, but anyway, we'll talk about that later on. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about the Windrush thing. You were all citing some examples that, you go back home to your family thinking you're going for just 2 weeks and you're restricted not to come back anymore. If you look at the magnitude of what the UK government did to these people, man, it's very devastating. I think it goes just beyond compensation. And even if it has to do with the number of people who these things are affected, especially those who are less informed. In fact, not everybody who happens to be a victim of this must have heard that this is what the UK is doing. The UK is actually sorry for making them, depriving them of their rights to live in the UK. So it goes just beyond compensation. I mean, if in my case, I would have loved them to come and then they take care of them the rest of their days. It's good one is back, as I overheard you say. And like I'm saying, how many of them will be able to know that they want them back and then they want to compensate them, they want to make them feel they hurt them emotionally, psychologically, and all that?
Probably the ones that have been sent back, I would imagine that, they have families here who will be following the case and passing messages on to them.
Well, on one occasion that I was out of the ceremony, in fact, the one he said he's actually tired. He's over 50-something. He doesn't want to come back. His mum, together, who was also brought on one of the news I saw in one of the news here in the UK. The mum was over 80-something, equally just like this woman who is back. And then she's weak and doesn't think she can come back. What about those ones, those who decide to stay there, even if they know about this? Are they still going to be compensated? And then what about those who are here? Anyway, that is one out of the issues I'd like to talk about. Now, let's come back to the funeral. I am a Christian, unlike the Muslims who wouldn't waste much money on their dead. All these display of the funeral glamour It's the fact that they show, they express the love they have for their family. But what difference does it make? At the end of the day, the person is dead. It's the amount that goes into it economically is what's the issue, because there's somebody who is in the family who still must be struggling, and yet they display all these ostentatiously, and then to the dead. I don't see any sense in it anyway. That's what I've got to say.
Thank you. That was Dr. Morton saying that he doesn't see any sense in the amount of money that gets spent on funerals. You can also call in 0203-735-8820 or 0203-286-0185. You can also go onto our Facebook page, Gntv UK, and leave a message on there. Kiki?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Morton that excess is just overdoing it, and especially if you have to borrow money to do all these excessive things. But I think
how do you quantify excess? What's excess?
Well, to get a golden carriage and to do a few things, just a normal burial is nice, and to serve people some nice food for coming is nice. And I think that for within your means is nice. If it is a huge party, as Idris explains that Nigerians do, then lavish parties and all. If they can afford it, that's fine. But if you can't and you overstretch yourself, then what is the whole point of it? Are you going to now suffer after your person has died for the rest of your life, paying a debt which you needn't have had? I think a good and well send off is beautiful, but anything more than that is just going out of
maybe as a curious child, as a young curious graduate who just left school, I've always tried to find out why certain reasons, why things happen. My first question I ask from my elderly people is, how much of this money goes to the dead? The person is gone. The only intervention I always wanted to do is how much money you invest in that person when he's alive, when he was alive.
Yeah.
If my mother was sick, when my mother was sick, there's not I didn't do from here to make sure that everything she needed was provided. Because that was the only thing she could go with. Every other thing we do when she's dead is for the living. It has nothing to do with the dead. Even the culture that the dead is going to do this cross-social, doesn't understand again. So that was my first reaction to it, and as a young child I began to oppose this thing. More importantly, when I found myself in a Muslim family, and I grew from being born into a Muslim family to become a Muslim myself.
In the Muslim religion, in Islam, what is it? Is it the same day?
It's a crime to display unnecessary wealth. That is Islam. I'm not saying Muslims don't do it.
It's haram.
To display excessive wealth in Islam is wrong. It's a crime in Islam. And that's why you find some people wearing these short trousers. Yeah. Some sect in Islam will wear it because Islam says even if you want to pray, your trousers must not touch the ground because it's excessive. Islam, you see, when I now find myself in Islam and I've now accepted Islam on my own as a way of life, I find every doctrine there suitable to me. You don't, once somebody dies, just look for plank and let that person go, because that person is no longer useful.
What do you mean just look for plank?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Having to get gold plank, buy this, put this together, even if it's not gold, Islam is against. Islam says, because that body is no longer useful.
What about culturally?
So that is where I'm saying, when I did say before that one of the things I find difficult to accept in our culture and our way of life is, I also understand that as we grow and have the influence of education in our life, we should be able to begin to correct and move with time. Culture is very dynamic. It's dynamic because so many things have infiltrated our culture. If that aspect of our life is yet infiltrated, something is wrong with us. Now, you talk of having to spend money on your dad, burying this, burying that. The funniest thing about this thing is that, which we have experienced, we can't deny it, is that even the poorest in the family is compelled to find his own money to spend.
Yeah.
The poorest in the family, who should be taken care of, is compelled. And that is where borrowing comes in. That's where I want to make sure that my own siblings, I've forgotten the language for it now. In my language, it's called Idigi. My own side is well represented in our father's burial. Because when we are burying, people say, look at that family, look at that side. They didn't treat their father well. Those things will come into play. And the only thing that caused this is because of this extravagance. If we have all agreed to do it moderately and let the person go away, those aspects will not come in. The competition for wealth now will not come in. The fact that I will be disgraced if I didn't represent my side very well will not be there. That is one aspect of our culture that's black now, and we must begin to do away with it.
Okay, we're taking another break. When we come back, I want us to look at this side that we haven't touched on yet. Maybe it's about time we start saving for our own funeral. We're taking another break. When we come back, we'll talk more. We'll be back shortly.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global. This program is brought to you by Pay Global.
Welcome back to the program. Let's read a few messages. If you want to send messages in, it's 0793-286-1328. You can go onto our Facebook page as well, Gntv UK, and send your messages in. All right, let me read a few messages. This is from George. George is saying, culture is the basis of funeral. Culture is the basis of funeral endorsement within the African society. The dead is more respected and celebrated in our society. It is believed that the dead need to be sent off properly so that they don't come back to hunt the living. Social prestige, the better your funeral, the more respected you are deemed in society. That's from George. This is from Akintayo is saying ignorance from culture. Okay. Again, it boils down to culture. Let's take a few messages. This is from Romeo. Romeo is saying, emoji laughter, saying that they don't have visions. Okay. So if you look at it now, it's more or less the younger generation that are saying these things, because if you speak to the older generation, they'll be able to explain why they do these things. Although they might have a different approach, they still follow it.
Even the explanation they give you is what they inherited. They cannot add to it. Because by the time you begin to question them, they get stuck in that explanation. The truth is that let us agree that this celebration is of the past. But my worry is that majority of us who live here, who struggle to get a pounds here, who wake up 2 a.m., 3 a.m. to go to work, get one job, 2 jobs to be able to make a living, we still get neck deep into this cultural, this aspect of our culture that doesn't elevate anything.
Okay, let me take another message. This is from Nayoka. Nayoka is saying, maybe it's because we've been taught in our afterlife there is a big celebration for those who live righteously according to the Christian faith. Death is the beginning of that celebration. You can't experience heaven when you are alive. From many who are fortunate to live well into the expected age of retirement, over 60 for most, they are expected to have lived a fulfilling life. So many have achieved more than some people in their 20s to 50s. So for many Africans, that might be a reason to pump up money into someone's funeral. They call it a life well lived on funeral invitation. Okay.
But nobody wants to go to heaven.
Another one is saying basically to show off tradition to honor the dead. Let me take another message. Well, Jones, I really like this topic. I've been debating about this for ages. I think it is pointless. I understand what people are saying, but to me, I don't think it's useful to give or to put in a lot of money for somebody who has passed away. Why not give it to them whilst they were alive? Like, I think that's the question that everybody would say. But whilst you're alive, it's hard to get everybody to come around.
No, it's difficult. Particularly now that we are beginning to question. We are asking. See, the good thing about now is that your kids will ask you questions. Why are you doing this? We've asked certain questions. They will not be able to give us reasonable answer. You have to cross water. You have to. Now we know by science that this is all lies. It's all lies.
It's not
lies. It's all lies. It's all money for some goodness. Look, let me give one small experience. When I was a young man, I was going to school, and there's these rituals. I take money there. I take everything. I'm not dead.
No, Idris, I think that you know it's fine for you to disbelieve what other people believe.
Yeah.
That is fine. But I think to make fun of it is a little bit worrying, concerning for me, because you see, even we are different people, and religion and culture is what has driven us. In fact, if you say you're just a black person, it is not enough. You have to come from somewhere. You have to have your roots. You have to know who you are. That is what makes you. An Igbo person, they will look at their funeral through the whole culture. If you are a widow and your husband dies, you have to do this. You have to. These are all things that make people who they are.
That's what we are saying. That's what we are saying. That if some things are not right, we should begin to correct them.
Hold on.
Okay, let me come in. Let me come in.
It is not a matter of you have to correct it.
Yeah, we have to.
All right. Kiki, I'll come back to you. Speaking about Igbo land, I just want to read a text message from our Facebook page. And this is from Umuaka. It's saying, in Igbo land, the widow's mourning of the dead husband is viewed as a very important tradition which the living spouse must observe in honor of the dead. When a husband of a woman dies, the mourning begins at the moment of his final breath. Much demand is made of the wife in terms of mourning to show her identification or concern for the man's departure from earth.
Is that corresponding from man to woman?
No, it isn't.
So that is one aspect we should get away with.
You see, you are making this argument and making it so vociferously. However, in truth, nothing corresponds when it comes to gender. And until we get that balance, we will continue in this way. We should not continue in this way. And this is why you and I come and sit here and talk about these things. The truth of the matter is, giving a coin to a dead person is not a big problem. The problem is when a man dies in all our cultures, a woman is expected to do X, Y, and Z. And goes through all sorts of rituals just to become clean again. Because the minute your husband dies, you are unclean.
And that's true, because my mom had to be in black, I think, over a year.
She had
to be in black. She had to be in black, scarf black, everything black.
And you didn't oppose that?
No.
Why would I? See, I at that time, because I knew she was grieving.
You were young.
Yeah, I was young, and I knew she was grieving, but I didn't ask any questions.
Would that have happened now if the father had died now?
Yes.
Would you have allowed that to happen?
Yes,
I would have.
When did your father die? Like 10
years
ago.
ago.
My father also, when he died, My mother did the same thing. Now, that is the right thing. And then in the evening after 6 o'clock, she can wear white or any other color. But come morning, back into black for one solid year. When my parents died, both my mother, my father, and my grandmother, I wore black, and I'm still wearing black till this day.
You know what my father told me? Because I asked him a lot of questions. He told me that all these things are fraud.
No, it's not fraud.
My father told me that.
No, you
so
see,
probably that's why I got my. He told me that all these things are fraud.
Is it not because
what is fraud really?
Is it not because of the culture beliefs? His culture believes that he's instilled in you.
Yeah.
No. He told me, perhaps maybe he was a leftist. He told me that all these things that you see us do is fraud.
Hello, can I just ask you a question,
Yes.
Idris? So your father said it's fraud.
Yes.
What is uncomfortable about wearing black?
Because he told me that all these things that when you don't do this, somebody will die. He said it's a
None
fraud
of
that
these
nobody
things-
has died. It's
Can I
just
explain
making
to
it
you?
up. Just live your life the way you want to live
no,
it.
none
That
of-
is what he told me.
None of these things will make you die if you didn't do it. We do things because sometimes it is a belief.
But there must
It
be
is
repercussions.
the-
There must be
No, this is what I'm
repercussions if
telling
you do
you.
not if you do
There is
not
no
follow the
repercussion.
belief.
Okay,
there must be
let me
repercussions.
tell you something
none.
about in this country, when I was a young girl, we lived in Letchworth. I mean, this is where I grew up. And in Letchworth, when someone died, they would draw the curtains. They never opened the curtains for a few months. You would see the person also in black. In Italy, they are all black. In Italy, in Rome, in all those areas where you see those black old ladies, all those Italian ladies wearing black, they are widows. All widows. It is something that is worldwide. When people die, people do all sorts of things. It is worldwide.
Maybe I need to tell you now what happened in Islam for that. Islam allowed for that 3 months. The
5
reason,
seconds.
Yes, the
5
reason
seconds.
for Islam is in case the woman is pregnant.
Okay. All right.
So that 3 months the pregnancy could show.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
Idris, thank you very much. And Kiki, thank you very much for coming in this morning. We're done for another day. I'm sure we will revisit this topic at some point again. Thank you for tuning in. We're done for another day, as I said. So we'll do it again, same place, same time next week. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Talk Uplift.
This program is brought to you by Pay Global.